Hey yo, welcome into the CHGO White Sox podcast presented by PointsBet. Use promo code CHGO when you sign up to get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. Welcome into Studio B of our CHGO offices here in the West Loop of Chicago. I'm Sean Anderson, the host of the CHGO White Sox podcast. You can follow me on Twitter at Sean_W_Anderson. Alongside me, as always, is Herb Lawrence.
Hello.
Back from vacation. You can follow him on Twitter at Ecknerwall23. He is the CHGO White Sox community leader. It is the All-Star break. Tonight is the Home Run Derby, and we will be talking about the All-Star game tomorrow with a live All-Star game pregame show and postgame show with Luke Stuckmeyer and Cody Delmendo of the CHGO Cubs show. But yesterday was the first and second round of the MLB Draft, and ongoing is the middle rounds of the 2022 MLB Draft. And to go over and recap some of the picks the Sox have made so far is James Fox from FutureSox. You can follow James on Twitter at JamesFox917. What's up, James?
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
No problem. You guys did a great job, you and Josh Nelson, on Twitter Spaces, along with Mike Rankin and other guests from SoxMachine and FutureSox. Also, congrats on the junction there. Congrats on the marriage between you and SoxMachine. I know it's a little bit late, but congrats on that.
Yeah, thanks. It's it's really good. Josh and Jim, they do great things over there. It just kind of helps me and Mike, stay afloat. Basically, we don't do a ton of the big league stuff, but our podcast drops every Tuesday now, pretty consistently. So, that was I think the main part for us. Like, we'll have a weekly show where before we were just kind of recording whenever, and it wasn't consistent. So this is probably best for everybody.
And James, before we get into the specific people who the White Sox picked yesterday and today, I've always wondered, I know Mike Shirley is the guy for White Sox and as far as recruiting and drafting and scouting these guys, but I know it's a collaborative effort, but is it Mike Shirley's final call, or is that on Kenny Williams or Rick Hahn to pull the trigger on these amateur draft picks?
Yeah, so every scouting department is different. Like, there's a lot of teams, like San Diego, AJ Preller makes the first 10 picks, pretty much. I think it's like a community effort. Like, I know that Nick Hostetler had a lot of say. Mike Shirley, last night was a Mike Shirley pick. I mean, they haven't taken a prep pitcher in the first round since 2001. And I think we made the joke last night, these Mike Shirley drafts, hit a little bit different. And that doesn't even mean that it's good or bad. It's just different. This is different. 6'9" high school lefty in the first round. They haven't done that in 20 years. So I would say he has a lot of influence. He makes a recommendation, and then I think they generally would go with that recommendation unless there's an issue. But look, I mean, there's been a lot of talk about, Kenny Williams being involved in the draft process, when Nick Hostetler was there, and then there was a change made. So I think they're pretty united. And then once you get into today and tomorrow, it becomes your area scouts draft. It's kind of okay, who's got a guy they want, in this round, who's got a guy in this round. And that's in conversations with Chris Getz too. Hey, what do we need? In the bottom, hey, we could use 2 catchers. Okay. So those conversations take place too, as you move on further.
And one thing that you tweeted out before coming on the show was in the first 6 rounds, they've gone with, 6 players that are in the top 250 in the MLB draft. You said you found that interesting. Is that a Mike Shirley thing, you think, or is that just, due to the constraints of now the MLB draft, the way how they pushed back the actual draft date from June to July, and then also just with COVID and all these issues that players have had to deal with over the past 2 years, is part of them going with kind of known talent part of the fallout from this?
So it seems like it's just a fallout from them having the 3rd lowest bonus pool in the league. They don't have very much money to spend. And look, they didn't have that much last year either, but they still did this stuff where last year they took Colson Montgomery and they gave him the slot amount in the first round. Then they went over slot on Wes Kath in round 2, over slot on Sean Burke in round 3, over slot on Tanner McDougal in round 5. To the point where you're taking college seniors in round 6 through 10. You pay those guys $10,000 each because they don't really have any leverage. And then you use all that money to pay for the guys you've already taken. That's been the Sox strategy, is to do stuff like that. This time, I mean, we're through 6 picks. The first 6 picks, all of them were on MLB Pipeline's top 250. So it seems like they're playing it more straight, where like they're going to give closer to the slot amount to like all 6 of their picks. So, I don't think there's like a right or a wrong strategy, but again, it's like it's different. And Mike Shirley hinted towards this Friday. He talked to the media and he said like we're preparing to play it straight because of our small bonus pool. Now, 2 days before the draft, it's like, okay, like I don't really know if this guy's honest or like being truthful or not. But it seems to be ringing to form so far. So, and the way this draft, like the first 10 rounds, that's your bonus pool. And then anything on day 3, anybody that you give more than 125,000 to, the overage counts towards the first 10. So that's why I don't really like judging draft classes until like all 20 picks are made, because you can kind of see what teams are doing then.
And that's what I was going to ask you. In the NFL, they usually say, wait 3 years before you judge a draft class in particular. Basketball, it's pretty immediate. What about MLB drafts? Like, when will we see the fruits of a typical draft? Not necessarily the White Sox draft here, but a typical draft. When we usually say, okay, they failed here or they passed here.
Yeah, I think still years, but I mean, like, I don't know. Like, they've had a lot of success with, like, even some of those seniors that they've taken that are, like, people joke that, like, you give Jared Kelly $3 million and you punt the rest of your draft. And, like, I've said it too, but it's not really fair because some of those seniors that they've taken, they've developed and turned into, like, the second piece in, like, a big trade. Like, Bailey Horn was sent to the Cubs, in a trade last year. Avery Weems was one of those guys. He was the second piece in the Lance Lynn trade. So, I mean, to answer the question, it's years. But the thing that's different about the baseball draft is that it's, like, all about money, right? So, for, like, if you're just sitting there watching the draft and you're like, oh, the number 9 player in the draft is available, like, just take him, right? Because that's how it would be in any other draft. And baseball is not like that because that guy probably has some bonus demand and he's got college, like, on the table, right? So, it's not always about best player available in baseball. It's kind of a fallacy. I always look at it as, like, you want to try to acquire the most talent that you can sign, like, with your, like, available pool space, basically. And then you go from there, and look, we don't know if any of these guys are going to be any good for years, but, at least if you could, it's like a process over results thing, right? Like, at least if you can, like, make sense of what they did, then it's, probably acceptable for now, and then we'll see how the players do going forward.
And I want to talk a little bit now about Mike Shirley's first round ideas, or at least maybe his what's it called? His plans and just what he's been doing. They go, I think his first pick was Garrett Crochet back in 2020. And then last year he goes with a prep bat in Colson Montgomery. And then obviously that's been paying off so far. He's got a 50 game game on base streak. And then he goes with the prep arm this year. What is the idea, or at least seeing 2 prep kids going for the Sox in 3 of Mike Shirley's drafts?
Yeah, so I mean, it's definitely different, right? Mike Shirley, like, premium upside, and it seems like, in this draft, like, look, Noah Schultz has detractors for sure, and he's 6'9". Guys that big just don't make it as starters usually. Now, I would come back with, and this isn't even me, like, defending the kid. I'm just saying, like, how many guys his size are even attempting to pitch, right? Like, I've seen today, like, oh, like, Randy Johnson and Chris Young are the only ones. I'm like, okay, but how many guys have truly failed? Or are, like, 6'8" dudes just not pitching normally? Yeah, like, he's definitely a unicorn. Like, so, like, I get it, but it is premium upside, like, at the 26th pick. I think had he pitched all spring, I mean, he was rumored, like, in the top 15 early in the year. And then a lot of people kind of thought that he was just going to go to Vanderbilt, which I didn't really think that because he pitched all summer. Like, usually guys that are going to campus, like, they stop pitching, and he'd be going to campus, and, he pitched for the Sparks, which is, like, one of the big travel teams in the area. So, I would just say the difference is, like, 4 Nick Hostetler drafts, they went with college hitters in the first round, and they took college players mostly in the second round too. And I think Nick gets a little bit of a bad rap for that because I think it was, like, a bit of an organizational mandate at the time. Like, we have to broaden this system and get baseball players in there and go with older guys, and plus, like, Jerry Reinsdorf doesn't always like paying prep guys, like, in the top 5 because they're expensive. This is different. It's a welcome change, though, for sure. Like, it's definite, because even the year they took Garrett Crochet, They spent $3 million on Jared Kelly. It hasn't totally worked out. Kelly's been a little bit better this year. But, I mean, that's $3 million in round 2. They've taken a ton of prep talent the last 3 years, which is like a big deviation from what they were doing before.
And what I've been hearing about the second round pick, Peyton Pollock, I hope that's how you pronounce his name, is that he would have been a first round pick if he didn't get injured. Give us more about the guy from Arkansas, a little undersized, not 6'9" like the first round pick, but Peyton Pollock seems like a good prospect to have in the White Sox system.
Yeah, so like these comps are all hilarious, like on this stuff, right? Like MLB Pipeline, like get like compared him to Walker Buehler. It's like, all right, guys, like, he's similar in stature. He is a little, like you said, he's 6'1". Yeah, had he not had Tommy John this year for Arkansas, he probably goes in the teens, I think. He was pretty good. He's one of these like big stuff guys though that he didn't have a ton of results. So there is like a lot of projection left. But I mean, at 62, I mean, it's totally worth it. I mean, you got basically 2 first-round talents. So we're not going to see him this year. I mean, hopefully he's throwing, in spring training next year, and then he should be able to go out to a full season. Like you'll hear about him at Kannapolis. But I mean, it's totally worth it. I was hoping that they would go with one of these college arms that got hurt, because there's like a whole bunch of college arms in this class that might have been first-rounders that all broke this year. And Mike Shirley talked about that on Friday. He just – he said like the pitching landscape it's just different. All these guys are max effort in college. A lot of them are breaking down a lot sooner. But the White Sox clearly aren't afraid, of taking a guy that's already had Tommy John, just because like they're probably going to have it. So, if it's already happened, I think it's unlikely to happen a second time. So, like you get that out of the way like before they enter your system instead of like it happening like once they're with you.
I know the White Sox, back when Todd Stevenson was the hitting coach, his hitting philosophy would filter all the way down to the minor leagues. Is that the same thing with the pitching staff? So Ethan Katz and all of his core velocity stuff filters down the minor leagues, or is there somebody else who's taking all the pitchers and developing them through his system?
So they have a pitching coordinator, like for the org. His name's Everett Tieford. And then they have Matt Zaleski, who's the pitching coach at Charlotte. He's very well respected. But yeah, it sounds like it's Ethan Katz's philosophy going all the way down. I mean, when Mike Shirley talked, I keep referencing this, but he said Friday that Ethan Katz was up in the draft room looking at pitchers, like on film. Maybe that's Peyton Pollock and Noah Schultz, who knows? But like, my guess is they're not taking a guy that, that Ethan Katz is like, no, like I don't like that guy. Like it is. It kind of becomes a group effort at some point because you're drafting guys that are going to help the White Sox at some point. And, I think regardless of what happens with the manager and the rest of the coaching staff, like over the next few years, I think Ethan Katz is probably going to be here, it seems like.
Yeah, it seems like he has full reign to do what he wants. And the pitching lab they seem very high on, and especially the results they've gotten from Davis Martin and Jimmy Lambert, seems like they're confident that they could turn guys with high stuff into full-fledged guys, and that goes with Tanner McDougal, who they drafted last year, Paulette, who has that high spin rate curveball. Any other picks that like surprise you? Is Jonathan Cannon fit in there as well, the third round pick that they had at 101?
Yeah, so Jonathan Cannon's super interesting. He was rated 60 at MLB Pipeline. I think he's more of like a mid-rotation starter, maybe back end. He's not like a premium stuff guy, but he doesn't really walk anybody, and it's a good enough amount of strike. I mean, he's ranked 60 to get him where you got him is pretty good. Like I'm curious to see what they paid him. He was definitely a guy that was mentioned in the late first, earlier in the college season, and then for whatever reason he fell a little bit. But yeah, I really like that, and I tweeted about it early, just like he's one of the guys that I would have considered. Not that I'm right. I just, you start looking at this like top
right.
100 list, and he's one of the top guys there, and they're looking for pitching. So, that made a lot of sense to me. Like I said, I mean, they drafted a bunch of guys that are ranked, I guess, which is better than drafting guys off the board, right? I mean, Jim Callis and all these guys have done this stuff for a long time. So, yeah, I think Jonathan Cannon's a pretty good pick, especially like in a system that just doesn't have much pitching. The White Sox absolutely have a plan right now to just like add like upper end pitching to it. Cause some of these guys could be, in Double-A, like as early as next year, some of these college guys.
Well, they have 5 of the 6 guys so far drafted pitchers. So, I mean, obviously they have that need and are trying to fill it. But are you surprised? I mean, we see Tucker Tillman go in 77th, and I thought that he was going to be a guy in play at 26th, and he ends up going to the Blue Jays well after the Sox pick at 62nd. So, A, were you surprised that Tucker didn't go to the Sox in the first round? And B, are you surprised that they didn't end up getting him in the second, or is that just, slot differences right there, and Tillman would have wanted so much more compared to Pollock?
Yeah, so Tolman's an LSU commit, and they're going to be a monster. For anybody that follows college baseball, there's a bunch of name, image, and likeness stuff coming out of LSU. Now he's going to sign with Toronto. They wouldn't have taken him if he wasn't. He had a big number. I heard between $2.5 million and $3 million. I thought that's who the Sox were taking. I put him in my mock draft. I had heard from a lot of people they really liked him. To me, what it seems like is they chose Noah Schultz. They figured they could get Noah Schultz signed, and they decided to go that route instead of Tolman. And then, they probably couldn't get it done in the second round because of the low bonus pool. My guess is, Toronto had 2 extra picks because they lost Marcus Semien and Robbie Ray. They have some more money to play with. My guess is Toronto gives him $2.5 million still at that 77 spot, and they probably had a deal worked out ahead of time. And that's what ended up happening, and the Sox just decided to prioritize pitching. I don't think Paulette is going to come in over $2 million. I just think they're limited. I don't think that was part of the strategy this year to go way over in round 2 again and then, take cheap guys later to pay for it.
At the time that we're recording this, the White Sox have 6 picks, 5 of them being pitchers so far. What can you tell us about the shortstop, Jordan Sprinkle, out of UC Santa Barbara, the Gaucho?
Yeah, so he's a guy that was actually he got some second round love early in the year too. He's a speedy guy. He might be the best college defender at shortstop in the draft. So he's definitely going to be able to go out and play defense right away. Probably in the Arizona League for 5 games or so, but he should finish at Kannapolis. And the thing with Jordan Sprinkle is he's an athlete. He needs a swing change, really bad. He's struggled this year offensively, but he does have decent bat speed and exit velocity numbers and stuff. He's just, he just didn't hit. So he fell down there. It's a lot of upside though. Even if he is just an awesome defender that runs fast. I mean, in the 4th round, that's a guy that's fine, in your system. I was interested. That one's intriguing because he also just transferred to Arkansas in the transfer portal. So Sox took him in the 4th. He'll sign. All these guys sign. It's just funny seeing a lot of these guys had just transferred and then they get drafted anyway, and their time is short lived at their new school basically.
Is the NIL just not incentivizing enough to keep guys from going into the minor leagues? And are they doing enough to make the minor leagues more appealing just with the more money that they have put in recently? I know it's still not enough, but is that part of the balance here? Is that just the NIL money isn't enough for some of these guys?
Yeah, because it's still baseball, right? Some of these quarterbacks are getting crazy money, right? But baseball, LSU, Tennessee, Vanderbilt, some of the big schools, those guys get paid a pretty good amount to go there. But, a lot of these schools just still don't really care that much about baseball. And if you can and look, Jordan Sprinkle, my guess is probably $500K, something like that, right? He'll go pro. He's already, he was a junior, so he could have went to Arkansas, but he probably doesn't make that next year anyway. So time to start his pro career. With other guys, it's a little bit different. Andrew Dukanich was a right-handed prep starter out of Indiana. The White Sox were heavily linked to him. Mike Shirley loves his Indiana guys. He struggled a little bit down the stretch. He committed to Vanderbilt, pulled himself out of the draft. For a guy like him, he could have gotten taken and maybe got $3 million, but he'll be draft eligible 2 years from now. And if he's in Vanderbilt's rotation, you're looking at a guy, that could go in the top 15. You make a lot more money than that. So for a guy like that, it's worth it to go to school. But, in most cases, and Herb, I think you agree with me here. I said this on the draft show last night. Somebody's offering my kid $1.5 million to sign a baseball contract. You're going to sign that baseball contract. College ain't closing anytime soon. So
you can always go back. And I was wondering, I know,
Well, here, real quick, I'm just going to butt in because the Sox in the 6th round just selected Mark McLaughlin out of Tennessee. So I just wanted to slide that in there in the 7th.
Is it another pitcher?
That is another pitcher, right-hander, junior. from Tennessee, was on the honor roll, the SEC spring honor roll. So congratulations. I got a smart kid.
And from years on past, and I know it was Theo Epstein's philosophy to draft a bunch of college players, especially bats over pitchers. And now it seems with the White Sox drafting, 6 out of the 7 picks with all pitchers. And last year, the Angels picking all pitchers in their draft. Is there something going on in baseball where there's been a shift change specifically in the draft?
So not for everybody, and it's kind of weird because Mike Shirley said that like this is like kind of a down pitching draft, which is interesting because he just used 6 picks out of his first 7 on pitchers, and maybe that's because it is right like that way. But no, I think a lot of teams like early like taking position players or college pitchers that are close to the majors. I mean, like you can get high school pitchers that are, first round talents in the second round a lot of times because teams are scared to death of high school pitchers, especially high school righties. And we talked about it. They all get hurt at some point, and you need to get more on your investment. A lot of times it's teams with 2 picks. You take a guy early, like maybe you take a college bat early. It's like, okay, good. We got one on the board that's like, we definitely feel good about. Now we'll take this chance, like at this next pick with this high school guy. So this is definitely unorthodox. What the Angels did last year, 19 out of 20 picks pitchers. I don't know if the White Sox are going to go that crazy. But like we talked about, it's like a push and pull between taking the best player and like doing what's right for your organization. And I don't know if you guys have paid much attention to the minor leagues. Like Charlotte has like 2 starters right now. Like they've been throwing bullpen games like every night because the White Sox are out of pitchers. And like, some of it's the 5-round draft and some of it's like they dropped the ball and didn't get enough pitchers. But for whatever the reason, it seems like they're going to add a lot of pitching to this system.
And they added another Indiana kid, Jordan Schweitzer from Ball State. What can you tell us about him and Schweitzer? And what can you tell us about him and another Indiana kid from Mike Shirley?
Yeah, so it's Tyler Schweitzer, I guess.
Tyler Schweitzer.
Yeah, number 210 on baseball or on MLB Pipeline is interesting. He was a reliever for 2 years. They put him in the rotation for the first time this year. He seems like kind of a back end lefty, is what he, like your typical like back end soft toss and lefty starter. But his pitch metrics are really good, I guess, with like high spin rates. He was the MAC Player of the Year this year. He had 112 Ks and 30 walks. So he actually might be okay. And I think he's the type of guy who he'll carve up the low minors, like for sure, because he knows how to pitch and he'll be against much younger dudes, like especially the way the minor leagues have been lately. And then, then you'll see what he is like as he gets further along. But yeah, that one, I didn't really know much about him. And then I read a little bit before we got on just because it was interesting. I mean, to win MAC Player of the Year, he had a pretty good year his first year transitioning to start. And yes, Mike Shirley loves Indiana players, and the Sox have always been, I feel like they take Ball State players quite often.
And like I know at the beginning of the year, the White Sox minor league system was ranked at the bottom. Some had them the actual bottom team as far as an organization. Now we've readjusted. Colson Montgomery's 93 in the top 100. What would you assess the White Sox where they're currently at with their season halfway done on their organizational rankings?
Yeah, so it's crazy. Baseball America actually moved Colson up to like 50. So he's like 52, 53, something like that, like in their most recent, which is nuts. I think most people are probably still going to have him bottom 5 because it's just like not that deep. But it's been a fun system to watch, man. And I've made comments about like we've seen 30th ranked farm systems before, and this is like not what that looks like, right? Like I remember when the White Sox top prospect was Addison Reed, and Addison Reed was a good, he was a good reliever, but he's a reliever. Like that should not be your top prospect. And
no,
they've had years like that. Nestor Molina was a top 5 prospect. Like there's dudes in this system. Like Colson Montgomery is really good, and Oscar Colas is a little bit older, but I mean he's tracking to be a big leaguer soon. Lenin Sosa had a monster year, and we'll see what he is like. I don't know if he'll be back in Chicago, now that the White Sox appear like they're back in it, but that was good. You got Brian Ramos, and now you're adding a bunch of pitching. So it's a really interesting system for being ranked kind of as low as it is, but there's probably a handful, I would say, that are worse right now, especially after this draft.
And with the Lenyn Sosa thing, I heard people talking about the White Sox really messing up because they've pretty much started his clock when they brought him up for that cup of coffee. And then I heard some rule also that where they can, unstart his clock. Can you explain what happened there and how Lenyn Sosa is, as far as his clock is, starting his Major League Service time?
Yeah, so I mean, they did burn an option a year early, basically. So, like, Lenyn Sosa needs to be added to the 40-man this offseason anyway to protect him from Rule 5. He would get taken in a heartbeat. So, like, in December, he was going to be on the roster regardless. And if he doesn't make your big league team next year, like, you're going to use the option there. Well, they brought him up and used it now. I mean, the whole thing is weird. Like, I understand rewarding the kid. I'm glad that he got 5 days of big league service. Like, if that helps him, great. He got the big league spread, great. It was just a little bit puzzling. And, I'm sure it was, hey, like, get this kid up here so we can see him. And then the manager chose to not play him. And then they were like, all right, whatever, just send him back down. It didn't really make sense for me. Like, if you just needed a body, plenty of guys in that system you could call up and just add them, and then, you discard them 5 days later. I know that sounds harsh, but it doesn't seem like a move for a top prospect. Others have mentioned, like, a showcase. Okay. Like, I mean, I don't know if those 3 games, like, made the Reds want him anymore in trade talks. I've never really understood that. But yeah, the whole thing's kind of weird. I don't think it was, I don't think it, like, is going to hurt anybody going forward. It was just strange. I think that's where you have different facets of your organization pulling on different ropes, right? It's, hey, who do we have down there? Chris Getz says, oh, this Sosa, like, deserves the shot. Okay, call up Sosa. And then he doesn't play. So, yeah, the whole thing seemed kind of botched from the start. He's at Charlotte now, and he's on the 40-man. So if anything happens to one of these infielders, he's probably the next guy up.
One thing that I thought the Sox botched, and it would have affected this draft, you mentioned Robbie Ray. The White Sox could have qualified Carlos Rodon's offer and could have had a compensatory pick in this draft, right? So how would have that worked, and where would have the Sox been ranked? They would have had a third-round pick, right?
Yeah, you're going to do this to me right now?
I've been doing it to me since it happened, James. This has been my off season.
So this is, like, the most puzzling decision ever, because, like, for all of Rick Hahn's shortcomings, this is, like, the kind of stuff that he does well. That's why I kind of think this, like, came above him. Like, the whole thing makes no sense. So if they offer Carlos Rodon this qualifying offer, and I have every reason to believe that him and Boris were turning it down no matter what, right? He turns it down, signs elsewhere. Sox get the 80th pick in this draft. You add $800,000 to your bonus pool. Then you're at, like, the 22nd ranked pool, and so it's a lot more flexibility. You get another player, at 80, and more money to spread around, like we've talked about. The Sox did neither, right? Like, they didn't. Like, I was totally cool with not signing Carlos Rodon. Like, if you don't trust that he's going to stay healthy, and like, Carlos Rodon, and you don't think he's going to work hard enough to, fine. Like, I get it. But not, like, extending the qualifying offer made no sense. And basically, the bottom line is, all it says is they were deathly afraid of paying an awesome pitcher $18 million this year. Because the worst case scenario, you offer it to him and he accepts it, awesome. He's in your rotation on a team that's, like, trying to win a World Series. I see no downside risk. They disagreed, and it doesn't make any sense.
James, the only way I've been able to digest it is the fact that I think that they're getting a favor from Scott Boras somewhere. The fact that they get Noah Schultz.
And Noah Schultz? I mean,
like, maybe.
Look, like, I don't know. Like, so that's interesting too, because Noah Schultz, I heard, like, had a big number, like $3.5 million, or, like, I'm going to Vandy. And I tweeted out today, he's not even, I don't even know, like, if he's getting over slot from the White Sox, and their number's like 2.7. So this kid from Oswego basically, like, changed his mind and decided to sign with his favorite team for, like, less than everybody else thought. Like, and Boris reps him. It's a little strange. Like, and it's why he wasn't really on my radar, because I'm like, they don't have much money. This is what he's asking for. I was just, I don't know. It was a little perplexing. I don't hate it. I was a little caught off guard last night, to the point where, like, I was, like, sitting there, and we weren't on video, but, like, like, people are feeding me this information, and I didn't believe it at first, because of, like, stuff that I knew going up to last night.
And James, last thing I got for you is that this season has been very disappointing for me. It's 46-46, so they finished strong. They're 500, 3 games behind the Twins. What do you see going forward for the White Sox in this second half of the season? Do you think the real team will show up?
So I've gone back and forth on this. Obviously, I'm sure you guys have too. Me and Mike have joked that like we're glad that we don't do the Sox Machine podcast and we don't have to talk about this baseball team all the time, like you guys kind of do. But yeah, are they back? I mean, look, they got an easy second half schedule, and the Minnesota Twins are fraudulent. So yes, like I think, I mean, here's your shot, right? You're 3 back. I mean, look, if they can go 40-30 somehow, I don't think that's asking for that much, is it? I mean, they haven't done it yet this year, so maybe it is too much. But 40-30 gets you to 86. I'm not sure the Twins get to 86 with their pitching staff. So, you and me, man. Get in, you got a shot. I know others disagree. I'm not worried about the Astros and the Yankees until you get there. So, you got to get there. And, they really took care of business this past weekend. Everybody would have loved the 4-game sweep. I would have loved the 4-game sweep. You had to get 3. They got 3. They're 3 games out. I think they're going to add. I think they would have added regardless, which would have been annoying. But at least now it's like, okay, you want to go get a lefty reliever for sure. Like, I think they need a starting pitcher. I don't know what they're going to be able to acquire. But, yeah, I think they're right back in it with, 70 games to go. So it could be a lot worse, man. They'd be buried in any other division.
And obviously, we didn't trust Rickon to handle the Carlos Rodon situation properly, and he didn't. So if you were advising him this trade deadline, which players are off the market for prospects? Like, is Colson Montgomery completely off the board, or could you be, are you including him in a Juan Soto trade only?
Oh, yeah, sure. For Juan Soto, you can take that. But that's the thing with Juan Soto is they're not going to pay him anyway. So I don't even know why White Sox fans talk about that. It's like, yeah, that's like totally off my radar. Yeah, I don't think they're trading Colson Montgomery. The thing that's interesting is 40-man space, and we talked about it. Lenin Sosa, Jose Rodriguez, guys people know, Brian Ramos, Gilbert Sanchez. All 4 of them need to be added to the 40-man this winter to be protected from Rule 5. I don't think all 4 of them are going to be protected. So that might be, like some of your prospects that are moved. Like if you go get a starter from somewhere and it's Brian Ramos and one of your pitchers, like don't be surprised by that. But I think they have enough to get what they need. I don't think they're going to get like a Luis Castillo. But I mean, you want Jose Quintana back? They can probably get him if you want him. Somebody's a left-handed reliever on a bad team. I think they need a left-handed bat. I don't know where that guy's going to play. You'd probably have to sit Pollock to play that guy. So, yeah, I'm not really I don't think they'll trade anybody that will be heartbroken over. Because it's a bottom 5 system and you're trying to win.
And so you said you don't think they're going to get Luis Castillo. And sorry for saying I was going to have one last question, but is that because the White Sox don't have enough, or they're not going to include the players necessary to get Luis Castillo?
Yeah, probably the latter. I mean, could they get him with Colson Montgomery headlining? Maybe. I don't know. I guess I just assume that other contenders will be able to beat them for a guy that high end. I think the other guy on Cincinnati is interesting, but he's hurt, right? Tyler Mahle. The White Sox have always kind of liked him. So, maybe he's a guy. I think they need a starter, though. I mean, Lance Lynn's clearly not himself. Will he bounce back? Possibly. But Michael Kopech's going to be limited going forward too. So I just think they need another starter. It doesn't have to be an ace, but that's why I'm really curious to see how much they're willing to move and like how big of a move they try to make.
Yeah, I mean, Kopech's at 83 innings, and we talked. I know you had some thoughts on this before and during the offseason on where he might be. I mean, 135, is that like you think his cap, Kopech?
Yeah, I mean, what did he throw last year? 70?
Yeah,
69. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, 120 is 50 more than that. So
jeez,
right.
That's what I mean. Like, I don't know, man. Yeah, like 130. I mean, and if you push into that, like, is he starting a playoff game for you? My thought is, like, he's a short inning, like, reliever. And not he can come in and get you 3 innings in a playoff game, and hopefully you don't have to start him in a 3-game series, right? Because I think as of right now, anyway, you'd start Cease Giolito and maybe Johnny Cueto in a 3-game series, depending on your opponent, and you have Lance Lynn and maybe you get somebody. So, yeah, I think Kopech goes into like a relief role at some point. But if you're going to start him every 5 days, like he's going to rack up innings. And at some point, something's going to have to give because, that old like Tom Verducci's got his whole method, but it's like proven out. You can't add that many innings like after, you know what I mean? Like he's not throwing 140. So at some point, they're going to have to dial back.
All right, that's James Fox from FutureSox. You can follow him on Twitter at JamesFox917. Him and Mike Rankin put out weekly episodes on the FutureSox podcast feed. They did a great job and a ton of great previews leading up to the draft. I listened to the one with Joe Doyle of Prospects Live. That one was great. I listened back to the one with Phil Seelig of Cuba Dugout as well. That was fantastic. So make sure you listen to the FutureSox podcast with James Fox and Mike Rankin, and we really appreciate your insight and expertise, James. You were great.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it, James. Again, follow him on Twitter at JamesFox917. What a smart man.
Oh, yeah. Just like, I like the White Sox, and I know of the White Sox. And I cannot imagine knowing the White Sox like he does, the current team, and then all the players down in the minor leagues, like all of them. Like he has information on all of them. Him, Mike Rankin, what they throw, how they throw it, what people are saying about them. It's like, the wealth of knowledge that those two guys have, you should be following them if you're interested in what the White Sox farm system is. Because I've been told like the White Sox are the bare bottom farm system, and then these guys, they say yes, they are, but they have people.
Colson Montgomery's, carrying the entire farm system on his back apparently.
On his 6'3" slight frame,
180 back,
getting the job done.
That's Herb Lawrence. I'm Sean Anderson. We're going to get into the White Sox, the first half grades, and all of that stuff. Again, thank you so much to James Fox for joining us. We see everybody in the chat hanging out with us. Our Alexes, we see KPW, we see Dave. Shout out to you guys. Again, the best way to support CHGO is to download the PointsBet app and use code CHGO when you sign up. If you do that right now, you get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. But that's not it. If you make a $50 or more first-time deposit, receive a free CHGO membership, which unlocks all of our web content. And you'll even get a free shirt of your choice from CHGO Locker. That's $2,000 in free bets, a free CHGO membership, and a free t-shirt from a CHGO Locker, all for making more than a $50 first-time deposit at PointsBet. If you have any questions, you can email PointsBet at allchgo.com, and we'll help you out. And PointsBet's your home for live and play betting, and it's just got even better. If you see an edge in the game you're watching, if your favorite team is primed for a comeback, don't just watch the game, bet along with it live. There's more live betting, more live markets, and faster live cash outs with the PointsBet app. So what are you waiting for? It's time to elevate your live betting game. Download the PointsBet app right now and use promo code CHGO when you sign up. Once the game starts, don't just bet. Live your bet life with PointsBet. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER for crisis counseling and referral services. And our next partner is our good friends over at Owen. I learned about them from Chicago Bears quarterback Justin Fields, who follows a plant-based diet. Owen is a 100% plant-based protein shake that gives you nutrition that works as hard as you do. All their products are free of artificial ingredients, allergen-friendly, no gluten or dairy, and easily digestible. When Herb is out at the softball game tonight, he is going to come back into the dugout and drink one of the cool, refreshing Owens he brought, whether it be the chocolate one, whether it be the vanilla one, whether it be the strawberry banana one, whether it be the salted caramel one. Herb is going to refueling with the best plant-based protein shake out there, and that's why Justin Fields uses it. That's why I use it. That's why CHGO uses it. And Owen and CHGO have partnered up to give you an awesome offer. You can get 20% off your first purchase at liveowen.com. That's LIVEOWYN.com. And with code CHGO20, you can get 20% off your first purchase, again, at liveowen.com. Join me and Justin Fields and try Owen, only what you need. All right, we got a super chat, Herb, before we move on to White Sox data. Andrew Bajek, I think, was in the wrong chat and asked James Fox what he thought of the Cubs so far. I didn't want to overwhelm him. We kept adding on questions, so we are bringing on our Cubs expert to help out Andrew here. It's Cody Del Mendo. Hello, Cody.
Guys, I did not expect this to happen today, but
it's your debut on the CHGO White Sox
I'm
podcast.
also sitting in Steven's producer seat, and this is different, so I feel weird that I have to look at the camera. Yeah,
we'll get you out of here quick. Just real quick, what have you thought so far on what the Cubs have done?
So they've taken all pitchers except for one pick. I think they took a two-way player that I think they said he's a shortstop or a right-handed pitcher, so who knows what he's going to be. They also just drafted Mark McGwire's son, so now the real question is who will return to Wrigley Field first, Sammy Sosa or Mark McGwire's son? That's the real question here at this point in the draft. That's where I'm at.
Mark McGuire's kid's going to come up and wear 21. That's where you're at.
Probably, yeah.
He's gonna use the right jersey number. Well, thank you very much, Cody, for jumping in and giving us that recap.
Yeah, and I guess another thing, the seventh pick, I guess he was kind of taken. A lot of people said he was taken too early, but then they got the 19th number 19 prospect at 47. I don't really understand the draft. All I know is that they've just taken a bunch of arms.
There you go. All right. Well, thank you very much, Cody Demundo. Very great insight. And you can follow the CHGO Cup show. Him and Luke Stuckmeyer are going to be doing it at 3:30? 3:30. There you go.
And also, we're going to be with them tomorrow.
Yes, we are. For the live All-Star Game, pre- and post-game show. Should be a blast with Luke Stuckmeyer, Cody Demundo, Herb Lawrence, and myself. We get to watch TA. He's batting, I think, 8th or like 7th.
They got him at
disrespecting him. 7th.
Yeah.
Jimenez from Cleveland is above him, and good old Alejandro Kirk, is batting 9th.
Just disrespect. Dusty doesn't know how to construct a lineup.
Did you see what Dusty said about the American League All-Star starter, Shane McClanahan?
What do you say?
I have never seen him pitch.
He literally stop it.
And
Stop
quote from Jeff Passan, I have never seen him pitch.
Dusty's been the manager of the Houston Astros since 2020.
Doesn't matter.
Ugh.
Doesn't matter. He's busy.
All right.
He hasn't seen him pitch, Herb. Dusty's busy.
Makes sense.
Oh, man.
I mean, they only see him 6 times a year. Maybe McClanahan gets skipped both times. But, yeah, I am excited about the All-Star Game. I'm excited by our broadcast we're going to do with the Cubs guys. We did it earlier in the year where he had the Crosstown Classic. We dominated. Cody was sad.
Yeah.
Luke was all right. But it's going to be a good time to see the 2 White Sox and the 2 Cubs. Yeah. Those bum-ass team got two players into the goddamn All-Star team.
Who's the second one for the Cubs? Happ?
Ian Happ.
Oh, there you go. Congrats to Happ. All right. What do you think about Liam making it in over Dylan? Are you fine with it?
It's just dumb. No, I'm not. I'm not besmirching Liam. He's had a good year. Dylan Cease is an elite pitcher this year. He leads the whole league. Every pitcher in the league, Dylan Cease has the most strikeouts in the league with his 150. He is 3rd in earned run average in the American League, only behind aforementioned Rue McClanahan and Justin Verlander, who is not pitching, who I said once, Dusty said initially early last week, Justin Verlander will not pitch. I was like, all right, cool. Starter for starter. Put in one of the best starters in the game. Dylan Cease should be there. And somebody said on Twitter, it's like, Dylan should just travel to L.A. Just go there and have a ticket, like right where Mary Hart usually sits, right behind home plate, and just look. Just has his hands folded up. It's like,
very sexy mustache.
Nope. That guy sucks. I'm much better than him. Like, if you look at the pitchers in ERA, all the ERA pitchers, the only one you see, even American League, National League, which he's 6th overall in ERA, all those pitchers above and below him are going to Los Angeles. Dylan Cease will be somewhere in the woods of Georgia playing disc golf, pissed.
Hey, I'm fine with it. Go get the Cy Young kid. You can go bet on that on PointsBet at plus 1,400 right now. Just go win some money and go win yourself a Cy Young.
Did you already bet on it before this?
I have not bet on it yet, so I think we're going to be doing that on a CHGO
plus 1,400 is good value still.
Some great value. And again, let's just go back to James Fox. That was a fun conversation. Just want to wrap it up. I do like what the White Sox have been doing. I trust Mike Shirley, so I'm not too worried about this. It's really mainly about developing the guys, but I think that's why they're picking guys with, as James said, high ceilings or really great stuff or great tools already, and then just refining them. Like Noah Schultz, you have to add velocity to his fastball, which the White Sox have proven they've been able to show, and just make sure that his mechanics are clean and straight line. That's what you have a pitching lab for. So I think it's a very interesting pick for Noah Schultz. And hey, if the theory's right that they got a favor from Scott Boras, use it, even if that's what it is. Carlos Rodon's gone, so at least get something. Mend my broken heart in some way. And then Peyton Pellett, again, they get a first-round talent, and that's all that I care about. As long as you're able to get 2 first-round talents in the MLB draft, which I think that they did from hearing about the way that people are talking about them, I think they did a good job so far.
Yeah, and me knowing very little about the draft and these players in particular, getting anybody that is that talented, that big, like he had like a point like 0.01 in Schultz, like ERA, like 1 earned run the whole damn year. And I know he's going against high school kids, but he's a high school kid too, dominating the level there. must feel good. He must already have plus stuff. And you said all he probably needs to add is some actual MLB muscle, some MLB miles per hour, which he's 18. He'll do that just naturally. So yeah, we'll be in the house with that guy. If he can repeat his motion, find a way where Ethan Katz is working with him in the offseason, because he's a first-round pick. I need this kid to project, probably 4 or 5 years out. If he's that thin of a frame
and that young,
needs a slider that's probably going with that's MLB ready.
His slider's ready. His
but
slider's
it's like high 70s.
I think it was like 83.
Right? Okay, that's
it's
cool.
not too off. I mean, he was pumping 92 consistently over the summer. He got up to 97. So I think his slider back in May was around 79 or so. So I think it's around
that
80,
up a little bit more,
82 or something.
Oh, right there. We're good to go. I see this kid as a good roll of the dice. I mean, the last time they did take a high school kid, the starting pitcher, was another local area kid in Chris Honnell from Providence. Hopefully it works a little bit better than Chris. But I'm thumbs up with this. Mike Shirley has done some drafts, as you were stating earlier with James, that I'm fine with just on the surface.
Well, and also, I mean, the pick from, who was it again? 2001? Honnell?
Oh, 2000. Yeah, it's Chris Honnell.
Honnell, Honnell ran into shoulder problems. He was pitching well, ran into shoulder problems, and that was 20 years ago. And we now got 20 more years of science, data, and better technology to help out injuries. So the fact that he hasn't had Tommy John too, I think is appealing to most people. And even though Tommy John isn't really the killer that it has been for pitchers recently. But let's jump into some first half grades. I can't talk today. After we tell you about FOCO. FOCO is Chicago sports fans' home for their best sports coverage. I'm sorry, Chicago sports fans, your best home for the Chicago. Can we, Steve, we got a reverse. We got a reverse. Thank you. Chicago sports fans, your home for the best Chicago sports coverage is partnering with a leader in the sports merchandising and collectible world. CHGO has teamed up with FOCO to secure your access to the best collectibles and gear around. Whether it's Bears, Cubs, White Sox, Blackhawks, Bulls, FOCO has something for you, your kid, a friend, or a loved one. If you're looking for some new gear, collectibles, or accessories, FOCO has officially licensed gear for men, women, and kids with everything from bobbleheads to swimsuits to Crocs. FOCO has you covered with the best Chicago merchandise of your favorite team. Head over to FOCO.com, that's FOCO.com, or click the link below in the YouTube description. And for all non-presale items, use the promo code CHGO for 10% off, again, at FOCO.com, that's FOCO.com, or click the link below in the YouTube description. All right, and hey, what's up, little Yumper? Thank you for the super chat. Happy Monday. Hope you guys are enjoying your damn Monday. And it's a Tuesday for us, Herb. We will be working on Friday, though, because we got Wednesday off.
Yes, we do. We do. And I appreciate you, Yumper. I don't even think he's a White Sox fan. I think he's a Cub fan.
He's a Cubs fan, but he's a CHGO member.
He's a great guy, man.
So, yeah, he's a great guy, a great CHGO member, and a great supporter of the podcast. But let's jump into our first half grades. And Little Yumper's a member at allchgo.com. If you go to allchgo.com, become a member, you get a free T-shirt, and you get access to Vinny Duber's articles. Vinny Duber is usually with us, but he's on his All-Star break, enjoying that out of state. And we are hoping he's having a good, fun time. But we are going to be doing first half grades because Vinny just went through all of the players on the White Sox roster and gave them first half grades. So why don't we copy his idea and do what he did? Now, we won't give you any of his grades or any of his descriptions because he took the time and wrote about them and posted them. So all CHGO members can check that out now, but Herb and I will go through our list and give out our grades. Herb, we're going to start with an easy one. Jose Abreu.
A+.
There you go. 90 games. He's batting .304, .387, .470 with 12 homers, 54 RBIs, and 52 runs. That's pretty damn good. I would agree with you. Jose Abreu, A+. And Herb, we haven't even gotten to August yet. So what is August Abreu going to do?
Oh, goodness gracious. It is his best month by far. He is going to obliterate the competition. And remember, the White Sox have a weak schedule coming up, and especially in August, when you could see Jose Abreu just go for that MVP that he got in 2020. And they can say, hey, you guys saw it. That was a Mickey Mouse in 2020. Now look at this shit. In my last year, I'm about to go and bounce. I'm still winning MVPs, carrying the White Sox to the playoffs.
So Jose Abreu in all of his months has had an OPS of 800. His highest is September, October, 867, July, 845, May, 835, June, 834, April and March, 800. We go through all of this to tell you because in August, he has an OPS in his career of 994.
Boom.
Not only is it the only month he has an OPS above 900, but it is basically 1,000 in 215 games. Boom. And the guy's going to play 30 of them in August. This team's red hot. I've missed baseball. I miss baseball already. I wish there was baseball tonight. There's no baseball. We just got to watch the home run derby. Herb, this guy will be in the game on Tuesday. He is the starting AL shortstop. It's Tim Anderson. What grade are you giving to Tim?
Whew. Only because the errors, A-. Bunch of errors, a lot of lackadaisical plays, sometimes not running out balls that are third strikes at the end of the game. A-. That's the only reason I'm giving an A-. Otherwise, it would have been a straight A+.
Yeah, I would agree with you. He obviously hasn't been the best since he came back from the injury. But one thing I got to credit with him, Tony La Russa said that he wouldn't be playing a ton in this last 7-day stretch. He played all 8 games. And I know people have been ragging on Tim for not playing, but I do think Tim is going to give his full effort to this team. I will give him an A- because he hasn't been the usual Tim. He hasn't been great. But also, he's still an all-star starter.
He's a starter,
and he still has very similar stats to where he has been. So I don't want to be too overcritical. He's still been Tim Anderson. He's been consistent enough doing his job.
Had a huge home run drought until he hit one the other day in Minnesota. So, yeah, I think he's better than what he's even shown, even though the numbers are great, too.
Right. Past 25 games, he's hitting 243, 288, slugging 288 for an OPS of 576. That's not good, but his numbers on the year, 310, 351, 416, that will play, and I'm probably sure that the guy will play not like the past 25 games. He'll probably be playing like the previous, 60-something or 50-something for Tim Anderson. Next up, Tanner Banks.
I'm going to give Tanner Banks, let's go with a B, a solid B. He started off really hot initially. His story is awesome, where he's a 30-year-old rookie. And as our only lefty in the bullpen currently, he's done a serviceable, if not awesome job. So I'll give him a B.
He's done a serviceable job. I'm definitely not going to say awesome. I'll say serviceable. 38 and 1/3 innings. He's got an ERA of 3.05. I just haven't loved seeing him in games, but he's got an ERA of 1.31. I can't complain about the results. I guess I hate the process, Herb, and not the results. I'll give him a B.
That's your grade, man.
Hey,
give me a grade.
He's agent Tanner Banks. We gotta give him some love. Jake Berger. Where are we giving Jake Berger on the year?
Jake Berger, I will give a solid C. He's been awesome with the bat, better than I thought, but his glove is just horrid, just horrendous. I'll give him a C on the season.
Yeah, this year, 250, 302, and slugging 458. He's got 8 home runs, which was leading the Sox for a bit there, an OPS plus of 113. He's proven that he is a DH. He's just not a hitter. So I'll give him a B- because it's not really his fault that Yoel Moncada was hurt and he was forced to play third base. So I think that he was forced into situations that wasn't the best for him. The fact that there's a universal DH, I think that he's proven that he could be an MLB player. So I'll give Jake Berger a B-, but I'm definitely with you. And also, too, it feels like whenever he would make the mistakes in the field, he would make up for it for hitting a home run. So he was usually pretty good at making himself up for it. So let's go to the next guy, Dylan Cease. What are you giving him?
A+.
Yeah.
A+. I mean, the guy has been better than even I thought. Like, I know he had 200 strikeouts last year, but he's taken it to the next level. He had a little struggles in the middle, but since that game with the Dodgers, I believe, or a little bit before that, earned runs have been very low. The strikeouts have been very high. The guy is still going to be on a revenge tour for not naming him All-Star. The best is yet to come for Dylan Cease.
Tied for the MLB lead in game starts. Tied for the MLB lead, he just has the lead in strikeouts at 150, and he does have the lead for most walks, but that's because he's not allowing a lot of hits. He's allowed 76 hits in 104 and 2/3 innings. He's been fantastic this year. Easy A+ for Dylan Cease, and I think it's only getting better for him. The way that he has increased his slider usage has just been a revelation. And we are seeing next level stuff from Dylan Cease. Easy A+ for him. Johnny Cueto.
I would go with.
Come on, do it.
I'm just going with the A. I will reserve the A pluses for the best of the best. He is better than I expected, but I don't give him an A plus because he's fine. He's doing much better than I expected. He's probably the Sox' second best pitcher if we're talking about the first half. So yes, I'm giving him an A. I think A plus is reserved for the best, and I don't think he's the best pitcher on the White Sox, which is Dylan Cease.
That's fair.
I would think it'd be cheap in Dylan Cease's season if you give Johnny Cueto an A plus too.
I think it's all about expectations. Dylan Cease has lived up to the expectations and honestly surpassed the expectations. Okay. That's why I think he's an A plus. I understand yours, but we're not doing a tier ranking. We're giving out grades. Everybody can get an A plus. Johnny Cueto is the second best pitcher on the White Sox this year.
Yeah.
What the fuck? When at what point did you ever think that was going to be possible? He's got a 2.80 ERA. He has 10 starts of 6 innings or more. He's done the damn thing, Herb. We have asked him to do what we wanted from Dallas Keuchel, and he's doing it better than Dallas Keuchel ever did. A plus. Johnny Cueto rules.
He's doing it better than I would have expected Lucas Giolito would have done. This is a better season than even if Lucas had these numbers. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a little bit better. But Johnny Cueto has these numbers, which is, what are we doing here? Seriously. Yes, I will just give him an A. So it's something for him to hang on his locker room. Like, fuck that Herb. And I love horses too.
Next up, Adam Engel. He had a great weekend in Minnesota, going 7 for 13 on the year. He's got a batting average of 256, 309, 375, an OPS of 684. He's worth one win this year, according to Baseball Reference WAR. What are you giving out to Adam Engel?
C plus, solid C plus. He's been fine, nothing special. He had a great weekend in the stead of Luis Robert, but that's what moved him up. I had him initially like a C minus C plus.
Yeah, the power's been down for Engel this year, but the health has been a little bit more consistent for him. He's got 9 stolen bases, only 2 home runs. He has been a little bit disappointing. I'm going to go with C minus just because that bat hasn't lived up to where it was last year, and he has been. I mean, even in 2020, he had an 811 OPS. He had an 832 OPS in 2021. Maybe he's getting to it. Maybe this is him waking up in Minnesota, which would be great for the White Sox, but his bat hasn't been to the level where it has been replacement level. His defense is clearly there. His defense is superior. But when his bat is clicking, I mean, this White Sox lineup is clicking at another level just because they have that guy coming off the bench. So I'll give Engel a C minus, but he's still been all right. Matt Foster. What are you giving Matt Foster?
Earlier in the year, I would have gave him an easy A. Nowadays, he cannot be necessarily relied on. So I'm going to give him a C minus with Matt Foster.
Yeah, it's all about expectations with me, and he's just been, he was really surprising, like you said, definitely worth an A grade in the first 13 games. He had a 0.6 ERA, but ever since then, it's just been downhill for Matt Foster, and he hasn't found that exact, kind of je ne sais quoi he had, 7.15 ERA in his last 26 games, so that hasn't been good. I'll give him a D just because he was so good, hasn't found it out, and really he's just kind of a detriment to the Sox at this point. I'd rather see Kyle Crick than Matt Foster in the White Sox bullpen. I think there's still something there with Kyle Crick. Don't worry. Next up, he's a legend, Leury.
I'm going to go with Leury, as I famously don't like him. I'm going to go with a D. He's got a couple game-winning hits, but it's not his fault that the manager keeps on playing. I mean, yesterday was a great example of what Leury is when you play him way too much. Mix an error at easy double play, which turned out to be no outs because Leury doesn't tag second, or he gets rid of the ball before he tags second. And then he just does things like that all the time. So, yes, Leury has not hit this year. His defense has been subpar. I'll give him a D. I won't fail him as yet.
You're being real nice. And
You're going to fail him, okay.
He was good in the outfield, and then he moved to shortstop, so he proved his worth to the White Sox in yesterday's game. But, I am going to give him an F.
Okay.
He has been the worst player in baseball at some point this year, and I don't think that I think that's a competition he'll be fighting in for a long time. Leury is one of the worst baseball players right now in Major League Baseball, and that's no offense to him. He seems like a hard worker, seems like a good dude. Vinny Duber always talks highly of him. Seems like he's a very genial person in the clubhouse. But,
Smiles a lot.
Yeah, dude stinks at baseball. He's just not next level.
And by the way, I was away a couple days, so thank you to Sam Sherman, thank you to Alex Rude, and thank you to Steve, drunk fan Steve-O.
It's a real smiley picture from Steve.
Yeah, coming in and doing an awesome job. Appreciate it, guys. I really appreciate you guys doing some great work in our stead. And yesterday's show was on flame because of the great weekend that the White Sox had. A lot of viewers, a lot of ears, a lot of eyes. So thank you for standing in this jerk spot.
Well, it's why I miss baseball, because I just want to talk baseball with you. I just want to keep watching White Sox games because it was so fun with Alex and Sam and Steve. Missed you, but it's also fun to see kind of the power of White Sox Twitter and the White Sox world, seeing all these guys be able to step in. And, I mean, we got such a deep roster. We tried to get Zoe on. Zoe had to be reminded of something by his wife. So he couldn't jump in. Mike Rankin's been big time in me. So we gotta figure out something with his busy schedule. We still got a lot of people to get on.
We got this whole week where it's just me and you,
right?
So we can bring another person in.
Well, we'll figure it out. And we're lucky to have Vinny on there. And yes, A+ for her. That's the easiest grade we're giving out all day. But Leary gets an F. That's the second easy one.
No, and I forgot. While I was away, somebody in this room, not Steven, not myself, won Sox math. You know why? Because he's the math guy on this show.
I'm the math guy. That's what they always say.
That guy.
That's what they always say.
That guy won Sox math. The next White Sox game you see, that guy will be doing the video.
Saturday, game 1. I have no idea what we're doing.
Do whatever you're brilliant. In the 108 tournament, you came up with some good stuff, especially the coach stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens. We'll see what I end up busting out. But let's keep the podcast going. We don't have to celebrate my win, again. Lucas Giolito, what are you giving Lucas?
God, this one's a tough one for me. I'm gonna go with the B. No, I'm gonna go with the C for Lucas Giolito. A C, a straight C. Average. He should be better than he is. He's shown flashes of, I don't have good stuff, but I'm battling through this. And a couple times his manager left him in a little bit too much, so he got exposed, and his ERA is inflated because of said games. So I'll give him a C, because I think the guy is better than the numbers that he has shown.
I think the guy is better than the numbers that he's shown. That's why I think he's a D right now, because I think he can be much, much better than where he currently is, and he's shown that over his past couple of games. I mean, it's not like it's been all bad for Lucas Giolito. He was very good at the start of the year, then hit a little bit of a rough patch, but it feels like he's cleaned some things up. Past 3 starts, 2.84 ERA, 20 strikeouts in 19 innings, only 5 walks as well. So it feels like he's cleaned up some things, and it feels like old Lucas might be back, and that's a hell of a lot better than what we saw in the first half of the All-Star break. And we saw this last year from Lucas as well. He struggled in the first half and ended up picking it up in the second half, so hopefully we'll see that change as well this year. Yasmani Grandal, what are you giving him? 50 games so far for Yasmani.
Is there an incomplete? If there's not, I'm giving an F then. He's getting an F. He's been shit as a defender. His hitting has been gone, non-existent with the White Sox. He's an F.
Yeah, I can't say it any better than that. He's got 5 extra base hits. He has 32 hits. He's got 15 RBIs. He's got an OPS plus of 54. He's been real damn bad.
Absolutely trash.
Doing better than the minors right now. Hopefully he turns it around.
He is, but he has also got 54 strikeouts to 27 walks. We're grading on the first half. The second half better be much better for Yasmani Grandal, because the first half was trash, garbage, trash. And hey, in the second half last year, he was killer. So maybe just like Lucas, he'll be great in the second half. First half last year, he hit 188, had an OBP of 388, and slugged 437. In the second half, 337, 481, 674. Where's that guy? I want that guy.
He'll come back.
We'll see. Next up, Kendall Graveman.
I initially wanted to give him an A, and I remember in the tier rankings we did earlier in the bullpen, I gave him he was a top tier guy. I'll say B+. I'm gonna go A- for Kendall Graveman. Right. A-, because sometimes I feel like he can't be hit, and then other times he's just wild and he does get hit. So yeah, I'm gonna go with A-.
Well, I think part of this too is he's given up a decent amount of runs, but not earned runs. In his past 14 games, he's given up 5 runs. And, we obviously notice reliever runs more, but only 2 of them have been earned. So he's got an ERA of 129, but he's given up 5 runs in 14 innings in his past 14 innings. So I think part of that, too, is just the way the defense has unfolded. He's given up a decent amount of walks here and there. But overall, he's been really damn good and worth the money so far. In 40 and 2/3 innings pitched, he's got a 2.21 ERA, but the whip's at 1.3.
Yeah.
So I think that's why it doesn't feel like a dominant starter. I'll go with B+ just because, like Baloney says, availability issues have been weird. And then also, it hasn't been the cleanest of outings, but he has still gotten the job done.
But I always wonder if that's more Tony stuff, the availability, or I know the Joe Kelly thing, which we'll get to, is specific contract stuff. But Graveman, I don't know if he can just go to 2 starts in a row or 2 relieving appearances in a row, which he has.
And I'm pretty sure, too, he used to be a starter. So I think it's kind of odd that, now he's in a different routine and everything. But I don't know. It is odd just seeing if it is health or if it is Tony. Next up, Josh Harrison.
It's like that lady's face when she does the kombucha. I'm like,
the sound you made was the exact that's personification of his season. He started off so bad and he got so much better.
His defense is A+. I'll put that A+ defense, but his offense initially was just so piss poor. I think he's worked his way up to a B-.
Yeah,
I think he's worked his way because his defense, no one can argue. He's been much better defensively than I even thought about. And his offense lately, since June, mercy.
So that's funny. So in the first half, in the first 35 games, I would give him an F-.
Yes.
35 games up to June 2nd, he hit 167, 248, 255 for an OPS of 503, right? He was worse than Leury. It was really, really ugly to watch him. And then since June 5th, he has hit, and let me just get the full numbers here. He's hit, and this is correct because he just hit a home run as well. He has an OPS over 900. So he's got an A+ in the second half of the first half, and in the first half of the first half, he has an F-. OPS of 835. I said 900. I apologize about that. But 295, 359, slugging 476 for an OPS of 835. He has been great as of late. He's got 10 extra base hits and 31 hits as well. So he's been driving the ball, and he is the White Sox best defender right now. So Herb, I think Josh Harrison gets a B- just because he's playing great defense, and the fact that the hitting is coming around, I hope that sticks around for him and he doesn't go cold again. But Josh Harrison, I'll go B-. Liam Hendricks, all-star.
A. He started off rough. You said, Herb, shut up. Stop worrying about our goddamn closer. He'll be fine. And, of course, Sean is right, as always is. And Baseball Toss said we just drafted Michael Turner, the burner.
Burner Turner?
From NIU? No, it's from catcher from Arkansas. Michael the Burner Turner.
You better be wearing 33. I'll go Liam Hendricks with an A+, just because I'm not going to blame him too much for the spring training. He was the first guy there, and still, clearly the start of the season, he still wasn't up to 100%. That's not his fault. That's a lockout, and once he's gotten up to 100%, he's been as good as gold. So I'm not worried about Liam Hendricks. I'll give him an A+.
Torn UCLL still.
And has been for 14 years. Insane.
Blows my mind.
Eloy Jimenez.
I'm going to give Eloy Jimenez the toughest F I can give him. He has been not good. And he oft injured, which is not his fault necessarily. But he hasn't produced with the bat. The thing that he usually does, he's not been doing this year. So I'm going to give him an F. Because I love the guy, but he has not done the job.
He's been frustrating to watch. I will go with a D- just because health has been his concern. It hasn't been the cleanest season for him. But you're right. The results haven't been there. He's hitting the ball a decent amount, or the ball hard a decent amount of times since he came back. But still, the timing isn't there yet. He has 1 homer, and it just hasn't been clean or pretty for him. So I'll go with a D-, and we're still rolling with more injuries concerns with him. So it's been frustrating. Next up, Joe Kelly.
Joe Kelly gets a D- from me. Hasn't been there this year. I mean, lately his performances have been a little bit better, but you can't, if you're going, he was the setup guy when we started this year. Now it's not him. He's lost his job because he has not performed. He walks too many guys, and when he does get it over the plate, guys are centering him up and crushing it. So I think that the fact that Raylo has jumped him as the setup guy gives me a D for Joe Kelly. The signing has not been fruitful as yet, but I have faith in him, especially in October games, to get the job done.
Yeah, we'll see if what happens come October. But since he blew the game July 8th against Detroit when Tariq Skubal was on the mound, he's pitched in 4 games and has an ERA of 0. So maybe he's figured something out, but he has not been good so far for the Sox. I will give him an F. He's got a whip of 2, basically, and that's horrible for a reliever. So not on the Joe Kelly train right now. Michael Kopech.
I'm going to give Michael Kopech a B. He started off gangbusters, dominating guys, especially the Yankees in 2 consecutive starts. But since I think the Toronto start, where he got 9 days off in between, he hasn't been the guy. And that could be because he has pitched the most innings by far in his professional career. He's been throwing the ball a lot this year, and you could see with the start in Minnesota, he's a little bit better, and the numbers are a little bit down. So I'm not going to be too hard on him because the performances have been lackluster, but I think he's in a dead arm period and trying to pitch through it where, a regular pitcher or the White Sox would probably shut him down for the All-Star break and then give him a fresh start on the backside. And I hope in the second half he comes back and becomes that A pitcher, but B minus for me.
Honestly, I'm going to give him a B plus just because he is making that journey to become a starter. I mean, it's not going to be the easiest of transitions, and he's still had some really good nights, and he hasn't really had any bad stinkers, right? He's still been a very competitive pitcher for the Sox when he's been out there. And James Fox was talking about possibly they move him into a reliever role. I'm just thinking about all the first inning issues he's had, right? So maybe he's able to go into a relief role and find something that clicks. But, I mean, the guy's still in there. I think it's just all about regaining that velocity and regaining a little bit of that confidence. But I think he'll be fine. It's all about pitching through it and finding what works for him. And it seems like dead arm a little bit with the knee issue. So hopefully this break right here allows him to recover. And, hey, he was up to 95.5 averaging, which is his second highest this year for average velocity. Actually, I think it's his third highest this year, average velocity. So that was great to see. So shout out to Kopech on that one. I'll give him a B plus. Reynaldo Lopez, this one I think is easy.
A.
Yep, A. He's been fantastic, electric. I got no concerns. This guy's dotting 100 on the outside corner. He's throwing a nasty slider, and he's been nails for the Sox this entire year.
Yep.
Lance Lynn.
What else is to give him? I mean, do I have to go there? F. He is not the pitcher that left us last year top 5 in Cy Young voting. You've not been even come close to the pitcher that we've seen. So, yeah, F.
All right, we got, I think, 5 more here. We're going to go to Yoan Moncada.
D. Defense has been good. He's been picking it up. When we've seen in Minnesota series, he looks more like the guy. But no, his first half as a total has not been Yoan Moncada. And so I expect much more out of him. D for Yoan Moncada coming out of me.
Herb's expecting you to be a top 5 third baseman in the majors. You are not that, Yoan Moncada. But yeah, last 9 games, 324, 390, 541. So maybe he's turning around. I'm not sure, Herb, but I agree with you. I'll go with a D grade for Yoan Moncada. We're going to go to A.J. Pollock next.
I would right there, D.
Yeah.
He's not a guy that we were sold on. I was in favor and still in favor of the trade they did for Craig Kimbrell, but A.J. Pollock really hasn't done a lot for this White Sox team.
I thought it was a great value for Kimbrell. I didn't think they were going to get a player that was this good, but he just hasn't been this good. I don't think that's really the Sox fault. I don't really think that's I don't know if it's Pollock's fault, but he just really hasn't found a rhythm this year.
And he doesn't play a lot, so that might be part of why his offense is not there yet.
He was supposed to solve right field, and he plays left field. I mean, what the fuck? So I'd say, giving him a D is fair just because it hasn't been the best fit for Pollock, and I don't think that's really Pollock's fault. Luis Robert.
This one's going to hurt you guys. I'm giving him a C. He has peaks and valleys where the guy should be better. I expect a lot more out of Luis Robert. A lot more. He should be better than he was in the first half. A C for Luis Robert.
He's hitting 301, 334, 461 on the year. He's got an OPS plus of 124. MLB average is 100. He leads the team in homers with 12, and that was a monstrous grand slam that he hit. The
Fast and hard.
Yeah, the first grand slam the Sox had all year with the bases loaded. But yeah, I mean, even in 74 games this year, he has less hits than he had last year. He's got less doubles. He's got less homers, and he's playing 74 games this year. And he's got 68 played last year. It's just not the same player. He doesn't have the same plate discipline, or he's not having the same success where guys are throwing him fastballs early in the count. I think that there's a turnaround there for him. I think that he can figure it out. It's just not there yet. He's just not been patient enough. So Robert, now he's dealing with lightheadedness, and that's concerning. But I'd give him a C just because he hasn't been up to where we thought he'd be MVP level, and he just has not been that so far. Gavin Sheets.
I'm going to give Gav a C-. Just he's coming up, doing things after he has been demoted to Charlotte. He has been a better player. But initially, he was not a good player, and they kept on throwing him out there. He's not a right fielder. They keep on doing him out there, but that's not his fault. They're like, okay, play right field. It's like, what is he going to argue? He's the White Sox power bat from the left side, especially since Yohan, especially since Yasmani haven't showed up as yet. C-.
Yeah, and he hasn't been he's been good, but he hasn't been great. Since he got back from Charlotte, 260, 325, slugging 452. Not going to complain about the slugging there. He's got 8 extra base hits out of his 19 hits, so that's good to see. But an OPS of 777. It's an improvement, and glad to see him making those improvements once he's gone down to Charlotte. But still, I think we overrated Gavin Sheets. I'd give him a C just because I think that part of the expectations and part of the part that people are frustrated with him is just because the expectations were set a little bit too high. I think the White Sox should have just been a little bit more, cash friendly, and spent some more on the market.
Yes.
And then I think they would have helped their team a lot better, and Gavin Sheets would have been able to develop rather than be pushed into a certain scenario.
Sorry, going long, Steven.
Final guy, Andrew Vaughn.
A. Not A+. A.
There you go.
He's been better than I thought, and to play the position of designated hitter for the most part for this White Sox team and do still well with the bat is a skill that very rare people have. He's an A hitter. I still think he's the best hitter. Jose Abreu saying, fuck you, Herb, I'm the best hitter. But, yeah, A for Andrew Vaughn.
Yeah, I was, really trying to push for Andrew Vaughn as an all-star at a certain point there. Back in June, the middle of June, he was the White Sox best hitter. He has run into a little bit of a drought here, 232, 281, and slugging 402 in his last 21 games. But he also just had a monstrous series in Minnesota, so I feel like Andrew Vaughn might be back. I will give him an A. He's had a lot of pressure put on him as a young player, and he has lived up to it. And it's not his fault that he plays horrible defense out in left field because he's not a left fielder.
Yes.
He has one of the worst outs above average on the team because he's not a left fielder. So, it's the White Sox team construction that frustrates me, but it's not Andrew Vaughn's fault that the team was constructed poorly, but he's been hitting the ball.
And I think Chris Kamka had pointed out that he is either first time in a long time or first time ever that a 4-game set in Minnesota, he had 2 RBIs in each of those games. So, yeah.
First time since Frank Thomas in 97.
I mean, when you're compared to one of the best White Sox player of all time, you're doing something right.
Someone called him White Hurt, or I think it was Skinny Hurt. What was it?
Medium Hurt, I think is what they
Lil
did.
Hurt?
Lil Hurt is Craig Grayback.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So we won't disrespect Craig.
And White Hurt is also Craig Grayback.
All right. Well, we'll have to figure. Cowboy Hurt is Andrew Vaughn. Thank you for joining us on the CHGO White Sox podcast. We handed out our first half grades. We had James Fox of FutureSox join us and of SoxMachine. You can follow him on Twitter at JamesFox917. And thank you very much for James and his time. He had really great insight and expertise to hand out, and we appreciate everyone for hanging out for a long time here. This is about an hour 20, and we still got people rolling in and hanging out, so we appreciate you. Shout out to Baloney,
And
LP,
Baloney, it's
Dave.
opposite. Sean gets the A+. He does all the work here. I just get on the camera and look pretty and say things. So A+ for Sean, A+ for Steven. I'll take my A. And Tusk gets an F all the time.
All right. So I was going to be nice. I was going to give you an A+. You're an A- now for that Tusk comment.
Sorry about that.
Steven easily gets an A+. I'll take the A+. Thank you very much. That was very sweet of you. And obviously Vinny Duber. We'll give him an A+ as well. So A+ first half for
Sorry,
CHGO White
dragging
Sox.
you guys down.
It was a lot of fun. What are you singing?
Sorry, I'm dragging you guys down. A- in high school. God damn, that would have been the shit.
Hey, I mean, we grade on a curve, you know. It's everyone. But no, I mean, this is an A+ podcast. It's been an A+ first half. We appreciate everyone that hangs out with us on a constant basis. Steve Sanders, LP Tube, Dan from the 219, Dave, Baloney, KPW, who's from fucking Toronto, Joe R, everybody, Brennan, Lil Yump, everybody hanging out with us. We really appreciate it, and this has been a blast so far. Again, we got the live All-Star Game pregame and postgame show with Luke Cody of the CHGO Cubs podcast. Herb and I will be on that. We'll be doing that at 6:30 tomorrow, I think. I think it's either 6 or 6:30. We will be posting the show schedule on Twitter tomorrow, so make sure you follow at CHGO_sports. Anyways, that is the A+ Herb Lawrence. You can follow him on Twitter at Ecknerwall23. He's the CHGO White Sox community leader. I'm Sean Anderson. You can follow me on Twitter at Sean_W_Anderson. James Fox was our guest. You can follow him on Twitter at JamesFox917. Thank you to Steven for his production. Herb, while we're going out, Brendan wants to know your pick for the home run derby.
I'm going with my guy, Julio Rodriguez. My guy and our guy, Zoe.
All right, I will go Kyle Schwarber versus Pete Alonso in the finals, and I will go Kyle Schwarber to win. Those are my picks. I don't think Julio Rodriguez is going to be able to beat Pete Alonso, but we will see. That will do it for the CHGO White Sox podcast. Thank you for listening to our grades, and like Baloney said, A+ for the 1979 album from Fleetwood Mac, Tusk. It is a very, very great listen, and I, during this break, this All-Star break, I do really implore all of the listeners of the CHGO White Sox podcast to listen to Tusk, the 1979 album from Fleetwood Mac. Thank you very much. Go White Sox.